So, January, everyone knows, is the most depressing month of the year with post-Christmas blues and whatnot. So we are going to be talking about feel-good films for you to watch to make you get through the horrible, horrible winter months.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I only know one that you spoke about, Martyn.
Okay.
But apart from that, I don't know what your feel-good films are. So,
I bet you could guess what one of his is going to be.
Lee, is yours Batman?
No.
Jurassic Park.
There you go.
Okay. There we go. We've got the mention in nice and early. So, who wants to go first? Martyn.
Yeah, I can go first. So my first one is, I was born in the 80s, so I was kind of too young to hit the Breakfast Club. So thankfully, in the mid 90s, there was a film called Empire Records that is like described as like a sort of coming of age / cult film in a similar sort of way that the Breakfast Club was. But it's about a load of teenagers that work in a record shop in America, and they find out that the shop hasn't been doing too well, and the owner's looking to sell it off to a big chain. And it's like a sort of the whole film is then about them trying to figure out how they're going to buy back the shop. So that it doesn't need to be sold to the man, you know.
Sounds like it's got a bit of a Be Kind Rewind vibe about it.
Yeah. It's as I say, it's sort of the film. It's sort of broken up with like each character has their own little issues that they're going through and things. And I was looking back through the cast this morning because I thought, well, there's only a couple of like really sort of big stars, but obviously when they were a lot younger in it. But it turns out there's actually more than I thought.
Oh, right.
So Liv Tyler is in it.
Yeah, I thought she was.
Ethan Embry, who was in That Thing You Do, is in it. Robin Tunney from The Craft and like a ton of other stuff is in it. Renée Zellweger is in it. Anthony LaPaglia is in it. And a really, really young Tobey Maguire is in it.
Oh.
Which I'd just forgotten all about. So yeah, I mean the cast is ace, and it is just one of those sort of like, because it's a coming of age sort of film, it naturally has a nice happy ending and things to it. The soundtrack is brilliant. It's got Edwyn Collins. Well, it's a 90s film that has one of these sort of like kick-ass soundtracks on. So. And that sort of speeds up because we watched it a while ago, and it's almost got the feel like it should be a musical on it, but short of the cast actually not singing. Like every scene is dictated by a different song.
Very
and it's
cool.
a better film for not having songs in the middle of it.
Yes, yeah.
That's cool. I mean, when you say each scene is dictated by a song, is it kind of like, you know, how Edgar Wright will edit his?
No, so not in that sort of sense, but that. You can't have a scene go by without the feel that they've sort of put a song in there for the sake of it.
Yeah, everything's there.
Yeah. And because it's set in a record shop, it kind of takes like quite a prominent part of the scene. So even in the way that they've mixed the sound and things, where sometimes the dialogue is maybe a little bit quieter or the background music is louder than it should be, so it's just a really nice, film.
Yeah. It's always quite a nice feeling when you spot actors that you either didn't know were in the film or had forgotten. Like I remember, it's not a feel-good film, but I remember watching Henry V. And realising that Christian Bale was one of the younger boys in it. He gets slaughtered, so I wouldn't recommend that in January to watch. But what would you say, before we come to you, Lee, constitutes an ultimate feel-good film? What are the main factors that you need?
It definitely has to have a happy ending.
Happy ending.
Some sort of relatable, I guess not even likeable, but relatable character, like main character in it. So I'd class something like As Good as It Gets as a feel-good film, even though the character, like Jack Nicholson's character, is just horrible for the whole time until that little sort of Scrooge, like, even like A Christmas Carol could almost be classed as a feel-good film, you know? And then there has to be some sort of horrible thing happen or like sad thing happen for it to build itself back up to have this ultimate happy ending, I think. Yeah. For me.
Lee?
Well, Jurassic Park obviously
needs to have dinosaurs.
It needs to have dinosaurs. For me, like a feel-good film, I always think of it as just being something that is usually laden with nostalgia for somebody else. So it doesn't. I don't know if there's certain things it needs to have. It just needs to make you feel good while you're watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the nostalgia side is really interesting because you could class, like when I watched the first series of Stranger Things, that's like a feel-good TV show.
Yeah.
It's very like action and there's some like scare bits and things in there. But ultimately you get this sort of like
the way it
warm
looks and
feel of, yeah.
Even just personal nostalgia, I always feel happy watching Quadrophenia. Because it reminds me of a particular time in my life when I was always at like house parties and stuff like that, and that would always be on. And
would you be a mod or a rocker?
Mod,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I thought so. Yeah.
I would have put you as a rocker, actually.
I know he's a big
Mod's
Who
dressed
fan.
better.
It's true.
I couldn't ride a scooter because I'd look
Just
like
veering off into a hedge.
I'd look like a clown on any scooter because they're so small
They
and
are
I'm
so
so
small.
massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, just anything that makes you feel good. Because I was trying to think of this with things like, I think Jurassic Park's like my ultimate, like for any time film. And like, but my other ones I was thinking of were things like Apocalypse Now and stuff because
For a feel-good film.
What?
because I love watching it. And like again, it reminds me of a time when I was just starting to get into watching films for the content of the films, not just what was around.
So would you have a different? Could you separate enjoyment of watching a film and like a film that makes you feel good?
Could do for I understand there might be a genre for it, but for me, I
that's
just
what you
keep
class as
thinking, it's like
it's what you associate
personal
with
thing.
nice memories.
Yeah.
So I could put
That's not my feel good film, by the way.
right.
Yeah, good.
An example.
Yeah, I could put like Pulp Fiction in there, but I wouldn't really class it as a feel good
Yeah.
film. Yeah.
I know what you mean. I'd say Jurassic Park's one of mine as well.
Would you
Lord of
put
the Rings.
just on the Jurassic Park thing? Obviously, there's like the big sweeping shots of the park and things. But would you put the soundtrack as like a key factor to that feel good side?
The soundtrack, like the bits I've noted for the films I've chosen, like the soundtrack just makes you feel fuzzy.
Because that theme you could hear on the radio or hear without the contact, without watching the film, and still get that same feeling.
We've only mentioned it; it's already in my head.
Yeah,
Yes.
same. I've said to you before, Saving Mr. Banks is a big feel-good film for me, and the soundtrack is just lovely. It's so moving.
The last 10 minutes of that over Christmas.
Oh, really? What did you think of the last 10 minutes?
Do you know what? It was a really good film. It was just the bit they just come to the end of the film when they're watching it in the cinema, and I think I can't remember who the woman is, but she
Emma Thompson.
Yeah, she was crying, and then it went up to the credits. I was like, well, that seemed like a nice film.
You watched Emma Thompson cry, and then you were like, I feel good.
She's a brilliant actress.
Yeah, Saving Mr. Banks is absolutely lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I agree with Lee. I guess, well, it's kind of like a mixture of the two of you. Massively comes from a place of memory, no matter what the genre is, obviously. Talking about Apocalypse Now, which is not feel good.
It's not up there as a rom-com.
No, it's definitely not a rom-com. But yeah, with Saving Mr. Banks, even a character who you might not have much in common with, everyone has those relatable traits of going through personal struggle and
absolutely,
overcoming it, and that's what makes you feel nice.
Personal struggles like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like dinosaurs, very relatable.
Everyone has their own dinosaur. That's what makes it sort of everything, I guess. And you like look at songs and things like that. Like Elbow is such a good band because Guy Garvey can write a very familiar setting, words about things. So if you can get something that people can relate to, and as you say, you can put it in any context or any genre because people will look into those things themselves. Like they'll watch Jurassic Park. And that T-Rex, that's a really good signifier of my, life or whatever it might
My
be,
boss.
or something that's exactly yeah. So that's a good point. Yeah.
One that popped into my head. Have you seen Eddie the Eagle?
Yes, that was a really good
It's
feel-good film.
such a good feel-good film.
I
Lovely.
hate Eddie the Eagle.
Do you?
No, but
Apparently
like
he's going to get interviewed on Manx Radio sometime soon.
Not by you.
I mean, no. Although it'd be interesting.
On the Manning line. Oh no, Lee's going to call up.
You're right, Ed.
I know, yeah.
How's it going?
But I loved Eddie the Eagle. And again, there's like, it's films that have a sort of innocence about
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
an innocent quality.
Yeah.
And Eddie the Eagle, he's so sort of pure
Yeah.
and just it's just going on passion no matter what anyone says.
Well,
It's just
that
lovely.
film you got us to watch, The Hunt for the Wilder People, has that.
That was another
film.
one.
That,
Yeah.
That was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as like I said to you last night about my connection with Star Wars, as a 4-year-old with glasses, I can sort of attach myself to
Star
a
Trek,
young.
mate. Star Trek.
Did I say Star Wars?
Yeah.
Oh God.
You get murdered for that.
I know,
Martyn.
God.
God Almighty.
I have to edit that.
I know. Yeah, and pause for edit. But yeah, like seeing like a child Eddie the Eagle, and it's like, oh yeah, I can get that. Yeah, because I think any kids with glasses, I'm just like, yeah, I wish you once.
Did you get a lot of stick for having glasses as a kid?
No, I was still quite a tall kid as well. So. No, I don't remember. So you might unearth some sort of memories I'm keeping hidden there.
That's what I'm trying to do. It's all masked in a feel-good episode, but really,
nothing makes
we
you
want to
feel
bring out
better.
some dark stuff.
Seeing a man in his mid-30s cry.
Tell me about your parents.
No, but that the Eddie the Eagle film, that is it's like really endearing, and
is
even once it
endearing,
gets into like teenagers and adulthood, as well, you kind of forget that it's a real story.
I know.
And that he's a real person.
It's mental, really, isn't it?
And even though I remember seeing him on like Ski Sunday and on the Olympics and things on telly, and you kind of did think, oh, this is he's a bit of a clown, and he's kind of not taken it seriously. But obviously, he had to take it seriously because he still had to be good enough to get up to that stage in the first place. But that was what was nice. And there was a similar film about called Frank, about Frank Sidebottom.
I haven't watched that, but
as well, which is got the same sort of
very good reviews.
Yeah, real sort of endearing thing. And I think it was a Chris Morris film.
Oh, was it?
I want to say, yeah. So
Is
it
this
had
where
the
he
sort
has the cartoon head on?
Happy Masher head, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that had another like really endearing thing about it as well, because you knew sort of like, I can't remember what the guy's actual name is, but the guy who played Frank Sidebottom in real life was this really nice sort of like charity giving character and everything. So then they put this really endearing film together about his life, which is sort of, it's not about his life, it's about a character called Frank, but there happens to be things that match up in real life with what happened in the film. But yeah, no, that's just got the same sort of feel as like a Eddie the Eagle, like this sort of British
I should
kind of
watch it then,
feel-good
because I
film.
didn't realise it was a feel-good film.
Yeah.
Not that I've
Yeah.
given it much research. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. That's one of my
good one.
Yeah. One of those ones where it makes me feel so nice that I completely turn a blind eye to like Kevin Costner having an American accent,
Right, yeah.
and a mullet.
Yeah.
And the fact that he
It's a
walks
fine
from like
mullet,
the White Cliffs of Dover to Nottingham in like
Yeah.
30 minutes. Yeah, that's a feel good one. Might go watch that this afternoon actually.
Yeah, that's good for this sort of weather.
It is good for
God,
it's
look at that.
horrible
I can't
weather.
even see Onken. Yeah, no, that's a good one. And again, like going back to the soundtrack, because that song was in
Bryan
the charts
Adams.
for like 14 weeks. Or
Yeah.
something crazy.
It was the longest number one, wasn't it, at the time?
It's so ingrained in, I guess, all of our minds, or anyone over like the age of like 28 or something like that, I guess. So like from 30 onwards, that I think as soon as you see it in the context of the film, then it is a bit like, wow.
I remember that song being in the charts and thinking to myself, even as a child, like, who's buying this now?
How is it still?
Yeah.
How is this still going?
Yeah. Well, that was the same when Home Alone was at number one in the box office for like 14 weeks.
Perfectly acceptable.
And yeah.
It's mad that Home Alone was top for that long after watching. We talked about the Netflix
movies that
series,
made us, yeah.
the movies that made us, and hearing how close it came to just being chucked in the bin.
Yeah. I bet Warner Brothers kicked themselves over the
I can imagine. Yeah.
Well, I think you don't get like the explosion megastars anymore, do you?
No.
You know, like I suppose maybe the girl from Stranger Things might be the Millie Bobby Brown, is that her name?
Yeah.
It might be the closest thing at the minute for someone that just came out of nowhere.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But like it's not the same as Macaulay Culkin, like pre-internet days. Home Alone comes out, and this child is the biggest star in the world.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Yeah, because he'd only done Uncle Buck before that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, how do you come from that to that?
Yeah, but I think that's one of the things that keeps films like that there, because people have no other ways to see this person that's exploded.
Yeah.
So you've got to go to the cinema and watch it.
Yeah.
Good old Macaulay.
Yeah.
Good old Macaulay. Okay, what films, I know I didn't mention this, but what films would you say avoid like the plague in January?
Oh, wow, okay.
Musicals.
No, I love musicals. Wait, no, avoid Les Mis. That is not a good one to watch in January.
I would say Control, which is the story of Ian Curtis from Joy Division.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very good film, but just go into it already being very happy.
Oh, yeah.
I watched it with a hangover one Sunday night, and it's the closest time I've got. I got into bed afterwards, and I just thought, you know what? You're probably going to die in your sleep now. So you've had a good life. You've had a good innings.
Ease with it.
This is a good way to send me off.
Oh, it is. It's a grim film.
Yeah. Why just?
Well, just like it's obviously based on a real story.
Is the way it's filmed really sort of?
The way it's filmed really good, but I think it's because, like any real life story that hasn't got a happy ending, you know it's coming, and so you sort of feel it creeping up on you. And then you go, well, how are they actually going to address this when it comes round? And for anyone that doesn't know, Ian Curtis was a singer in Joy Division, and he hung himself on the night before they were due to go and do their American tour, their first big American tour.
Why?
Just depression. And and so he, so you're watching this film, and you know it's coming. You know they're going to address it. And you know it's probably going to come near the end of the film. So you sort of get into it and you start connecting with the characters and things, as, you know, all good sort of script writing and things should be able to do. And then it comes, and then the way that they film it, they don't show you him hanging or anything. You just get the obvious, the bits that you never really think of, like you read about it in the papers or in the magazines, you read biographies, but they've obviously actually addressed, well, what, the rest of Joy Division, how they reacted to it and things at the time. Then you go, oh God, now I've just built up this sort of connection and almost friendship with the other band members. Now you're going through their grief that you sort of go through that, which you don't kind of get a lot with films, especially with fictitious characters, because although you connect them, you've still got that thing of going, well, they're fictitious, so it doesn't actually happen. Whereas this actually happened.
Why did you watch that when you were hungover?
Because it was Joy Division, and I really liked the band, and I thought, oh, this could be quite a nice sort of thing to get me through my hangover. Not sort of thinking ahead and going, oh no, it's not like you're watching like a Ramones biography or something where a lot of it's really happy and they have their moments and things, but so, yeah, there could have been better films to watch. But that, and on from a more fictitious one, if you've ever seen Shane Meadows' Dead Man's Shoes.
Oh, God, yeah, that's...
I've only ever watched that once.
Same.
I can't bring myself to watch it again.
Carried by it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
It's just... it's probably, I think, Paddy Considine's best film he's ever done. And so he plays a guy who's come back, he's in the army, and he comes back because his brother, who's got very obvious learning difficulties, has been bullied by these local drug dealers. And so he's basically come back and the brother's sort of going, that's him over there. He goes, right, you stay there, brother, I'll go and sort him out. And he's picking off the drug dealers one by one, basically. But it's the twist at the end that then makes you go, oh God, this is not, you need 1,000 Disney films to make you happy again. But yeah, as I say, I've only ever watched it once because I'm like, I don't want to go back to watch something that's upsetting again.
I remember thinking the way it looked as well was very grim grey Britain.
Oh yeah. The colour grading on it is, it should be Russian.
Yeah.
It's that sort of... Right.
I find I get a bit bored of watching brown films.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's very concrete.
Yeah, very concrete.
They're washed out blues and washed out greens and things in it. And it's even the scenes where there'd be a bit of colour in it, like there's a scene in a house and there's some like orange lights and things in there, but even the sort of warm lights, they darken the house.
Yeah.
So,
it's not very pleasant visually. Like, I mean, it's very successful in what it was aiming to achieve, but it's not enjoyable.
Not nice to look at,
no.
Yeah, but yeah, that's probably the grimmest film I think I've ever seen.
I struggle to get sad from watching films.
Right, watch that.
Yeah, I'll have a go.
You're just discovering Lee as a sociopath.
No, because I'll get like I said to you before, like acts of heroism and stuff like that. Since I've had a child, seem to get me and stuff like that. But I can't. Like, I wasn't happy after watching like Schindler's List, but I was no sadder than when I went into it. You know, it was like, oh well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
But do you think with something like that, it's because you've got the historical context to it, and so like my experiences of the Second World War is through a textbook in school.
Oh yeah.
So it's almost kind of clinical.
Yeah.
And no matter how many horrific photos, because some of those textbooks were bloody horrible.
I think no matter what, I know it's not real. That's the thing. You know, the film's not real.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like when I went to a Holocaust memorial. You know, you're going around reading and looking at all these things.
Yeah.
Whoa, it's pretty grim.
Yeah.
At least I knew I wasn't a sociopath when I walked out of there.
Yeah.
But if I watched the same thing that reenacts that as a film,
you kind of have that.
I know they're in LA,
even though you know it's based on something else.
Yeah.
Oh, so you actually have to. So can you watch the news at all?
Well, I'm not sure if that's as any more real than that than the film.
I shouldn't have brought the news. But do you watch those daytime television campaigns about like give £1 a day to help the starving children?
No.
Okay.
No,
right, you can't deal with those yet.
Or to be fair, it's the animal ones I can't deal with. Like, take everything.
Oh, right. Okay.
The dogs need T-shirts. But yeah, so I don't really get that. I don't like being bored when I'm not happy. So my E.T. is not a good film to watch in January.
Right. Okay.
Like I'm on about number 40 of that so far this month.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not. Oh, the only thing that's good about E.T. is I worked out, you know, when he gets really sick at the end and he goes all grey and white, it made me giggle because I realised he looks like he should be strung up in a delicatessens.
You sure you're not?
I think we are like touching on something.
Oh, what were your grim films?
The Perfect Storm always.
Okay.
Like, I remember watching it when I was about 14 and I never watched it since, but I remember not liking that George Clooney was just floating in the sea, waiting to die. I thought that was horrible. But in terms of grim, I asked you the question. I hadn't even thought of an answer myself.
Right. Okay.
But I don't like any of the films that are like concrete grey. Just unsettles me.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I don't like it when the weather's grey. Anyway, like I would much rather it be raining. But let me think.
People getting buried when people are buried alive. Don't like that.
Buried,
me.
with Ryan Reynolds. That's a horrible film. Because you get the glimmer of hope at the end, don't you?
Yeah.
It sends and shivers down your spine.
Horrible.
There's a film called Killer Joe with Matthew McConaughey in it, and it is not a rom-com. He plays this.
Are you sure?
Yeah. He stoves a guy's face in with a tin of beans.
Does he do it for love?
He does do it for love. Yeah. Oddly, I'm trying to think what. He does in some way,
roundabout way,
in a very roundabout way. Yeah, I think he does. But yeah, that's quite a. I don't really call it grim, but it's sort of like a insight into like middle American life, kind of all the stereotypes that you think might be about that. Then that sort of plays onto that. But that's just a very dark shot film. So although there's like some grim points to it, it's just like as you say, like the overall look of the film is just quite a dark shot. Like Seven is a very dark film.
That's a grim looking film.
It is.
And although it's like quite a hard watch in places, it didn't bring out. I watched it as though like it was a horror film, and you kind of have that detachment a little bit. Yeah. So like some people will say like what's the horror film that's left you thinking like, oh god, that I really feel uneasy about that. There isn't really a lot, But I'd always go back to Dead Man's Shoes. I go, it's not a horror film. I said, but as far as how it left you feeling, it was way more like affected than any other, any horrific.
I think a Serbian film's the only one that's affected me like that.
I wouldn't watch that because it's just a terribly scripted film.
It's an awful film, and there's no. I think there's very little artistic merit to it, but I think that it's just. I've never watched a film and then come to the end of it and gone, that all seems a little over the top.
Yeah,
that seems a bit too far.
Bit much for me.
Yeah. So, no, I wouldn't be asked with that at all.
It didn't really leave me in terms of horror. Creep got to me quite a lot. The end of Creep.
Right. Okay. I don't know if I've seen that.
Creep. I've heard of it.
The actor, what's his name? He's in The Morning Show. You know, the new series with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, which I really, really enjoyed. I think he hires someone to sort of document his life, and then he just brings this guy into his home, and he is, like, as the name implies, just incredibly creepy, and he has this horrible wolf mask that he puts on, and then he just stands still, like looking at the camera. But at the end, I don't want to give the end away, but it's horrible. It's just a really long shot where you see everything, and there's you're waiting for something to happen, and then it actually does, and you see the whole thing, and you're just like, oh god, like I was checking behind me in the lounge.
I do get a response out of horror films. I get scared very easy watching horror films, and I creeped out easy as well.
Yeah, I think that's the point with like Killer Joe in that the tin scene is that the camera doesn't move. So it's like, how did they do that?
Yeah, just cover it up really well. Okay, just before we finish, what was the first film you watched in the first film of the new decade that you watched?
Oh God, that's a good question.
Thanks. I'm a journalist.
You are, hitting all the hard-hitting questions.
I don't think it started well, you know. I think I watched that Thingy 9, the Ryan Reynolds thing on Netflix.
Oh, I've not seen that.
Is it like an action film?
Yes, yeah.
I've seen it advertised. It looked a little bit naff. Yeah.
Awful.
Why did you start with that?
Because Ryan Reynolds said,
I do like Ryan Reynolds.
Best film I've ever made, and considering I've made Deadpool, that's saying something. And I know how much you love making Deadpool, so I thought, Ryan, I trust you. And it was just Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, but in Ocean's 11 with more explosions.
Okay.
I'm trying to find my most recently watched list thing on Netflix because I can't think what I've seen. The only thing that stood out for me recently is the BBC version of Dracula.
Oh yeah.
That I'd sort of watched going into the new year, which I really enjoyed. I've seen a few people sort of say that they didn't like the third episode, which is set in modern day, but
I still haven't watched the third episode.
Right. But it's like, with like Mark Gatiss does Sherlock. It's just got that same sort of feel to it. So it's like a classic
he makes
story.
It cool and modern without sort of taking away from any of the, like you say, the classic story aspect of it. That's probably, I can't think of a film that I've seen in the past. Yeah, no, it's all been catching up on TV, to be honest, which is really bad. I'm going to watch that, The Ritual, tonight, so I'll let you know what I thought. Yeah, good. Good. I watched The Death of Stalin.
I watched that over Christmas. Yeah. It's so funny.
Have you not seen it?
I haven't seen it.
One
it looks good.
Best
You know, when you
comedies.
said before about someone that it annoyed you that Kevin Costner spoke in his American accent. But that's the thing that I liked about The Death of Stalin.
They're all English in Russia.
Well, they're all, they like Armando Iannucci basically went, don't try and do his Russian accent. Just speak with your own voices. So Stalin,
like a 50s Second World War film?
No, it's not that over the top.
Right.
No, not at all. So, but it's like Stalin's council, I guess you could say, made up of obviously different actors. So like the army general is a British guy, but he's Cockney. So you've just got like the full-on Cockney voice. But Steve Buscemi is in it as well. So there's there's an American accent in there too, and it's just like Stalin's Cockney. It's just so funny.
Brilliant. It's so funny, and there's so many different types of humour in it as well. Like really dry, quite dark, silly.
Yeah.
There's a bit of the sequence at the start where there's an orchestra playing and Starling calls and says,
Yes.
I want like a copy. I want you to record that playing, and it's already finished. And then the guy that's running it, who is
It's Paddy Considine.
Right, yeah, of course. And so he's running around like, sit down, like, sit down. Like, we need to do it again. But it's the bit where he's talking, he's just gotten off the phone, and Starling or whoever spoke to him is like, call me back in 19 minutes. And he's saying to his assistant, when did I call? Like, was it 4 minutes ago? And the guy's like, I don't know, because I didn't take the call. And he's like, yeah, you keep saying that. It's not helping.
Has it been 5 minutes? Is it from when he started calling or from when he hung up?
It's just brilliant.
I love the bit when they're moving his body back to his bedroom. Yeah. And it's like, because when he died, he wet himself. So they're picking it up. It's like, oh no, why have I got to get this out? It's like, just carry him.
And they do little bits like, as people are like rushing in because they've heard that he's died, but they do it in slow motion, and you've got one of them like, are we late? Sorry. Like, it's honestly good. And I think that's actually a good way to finish, because I reckon that's a feel-good film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
it's a feel-good film. Yeah. Like we were saying, like the subject isn't feel-good, but they've made it feel good.
Yeah. It doesn't take away, like the bits kind of nearer the end. It does remind you that actually that was a horrible regime, and they were all psychopaths.
It's very, very dark.
But it is generally, you're going to come out of it going, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Brilliant. We'll end it there.
Cool.